I don't want to say that they're doing wrong. I think it's a better awareness of giving our kids opportunities in different sports, but understanding the environment at home and what they're watching, and then who they're hanging out with. Their friends group is going to navigate them through a lot of these sports.
What would you say you could point to that parents are doing wrong in youth sports?
Um, so a couple things.
Well, Tyler, before we get into some youth sports, can you tell everybody, how do you know me?
Hey, this is my best friend right here. We've been together through the thick and thin, through college baseball, played with Andy, coached Andy my first year of coaching. What was that 2009, 2010?
2009, 2010, first
So,
year being
yes,
a
we're dating
GA.
ourselves. That's 15 years ago we played college baseball, and here we are, and now we're talking youth baseball.
Golly, comes full circle, doesn't it? So you've coached at every level. You and I have coached a camp and at some point in time. And so can you point to any singular problems of what's going on in youth sports? What's the problem in youth sports?
Well, there's a couple things, but I think what we're all trying to do is how do we get more kids playing baseball or banana ball? How do
Hmm.
we get them to stay in the game for longer, so not leaving the game and going to do something else? And how do we develop them over a longer period of time to be the best versions of themselves? And I think um, kind of a thing that is around all three of those things, from getting them to play, keeping them playing, and then developing them at a high level, is the cost of it right now. And I feel like one of the major problems in youth sports right now is the cost of it. It's multi-million dollar business right now, and
Absolutely.
I think it's pushing out a lot of kids that would be really good at the game of baseball or banana ball, and we need to get those kids back playing.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about how it's become such an affluent sport. Like, what was it a couple of years ago? The top five MLB draft picks, three of them were former MLB players. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to that. I think a big reason is there's a positive thing with that is those kids grew up in the locker room. Those kids grew up around the baseball
Oh,
field, and so
totally.
when we just take the development side of it, is hey, if you want to be the best at anything, is you got to work harder and work more than everybody else. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be, a first round draft pick, a D1 athlete, the best version of themselves, but you can't hide from doing it more than everybody else. One of our
Yeah.
quotes all the time as hitters is the best hitters hit the most. If you want to hit the most, you got to hit the most,
Right.
right? And so, you know, anybody that I've studied that's been highly successful in what they've done, they literally work harder than everybody else. And so I think those guys that get drafted, I mean, their dads have done it. So like we're talking about youth baseball, taking 6-year olds, 5-year olds to 12-year olds, and looking at that window is how do we develop those kids the most? Well, they've got to see it being played, and they got to see it being played at a high level,
Hmm.
and then they've got to get those reps in. And so, looking at our practice environments, I love the book The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. It's one of my favorite books when you talk about how skill is developed over a long period of time. And in that book, they talk about the 10,000 hour rule, and that's been debated whether people believe that or not. But I think what's not been debated is you have to be really good and work really hard to become really good at a skill. And so the 10,000 hour rule is deliberate practice over a long period of time. So, how do we create practice environments for youth kids that are fun, engaging, and just a little bit outside of their comfort zone so they can push their abilities to the next level?
Be challenged. What you were saying reminds me of a saying I've heard for a very long time. It's easier to stay in a routine than to get into a routine.
Yeah.
And consistency is what it's all about. What are your thoughts on specializing in a sport at a young age?
I go two routes with it. One, I think at a young age, parents ask me all the time, what pitching coach or hitting coach should I send my kid to? I think the best thing that they can do at a young age is put their kids into gymnastics so they can understand body awareness,
Right.
and then either put them in karate or jujitsu to teach them discipline and create confidence. So I think any sport that you play, confidence is a big piece of it. Of course, you have to play the sport to be good at the sport.
Right.
Um, Human nature, if any of us are not good at something, we're not going to want to do it more. We're going to want to go find something that we want to have fun at.
Oh, totally.
So I think body awareness helps, building confidence through karate or jujitsu helps too as well, and then going to actually play the sport. So I think playing multiple sports is good. I think in a general basis that sounds good, but at some point you have to focus and put a ton of work into one area. I am a big believer in that. I played a lot of sports growing up through little league and youth sports, but when I got into high school baseball and I knew I wanted to play college baseball, I knew I couldn't keep playing multiple sports because of where my skill level was at,
Right.
that I needed to focus and put more intention into playing baseball if I wanted to go play college baseball. So we can sugarcoat it and make it sound good that, yeah, you should play 4 different sports, but if all 4 of those sports make you very average and not
At some
better,
point,
then
specializing is
yeah,
important.
no
At
doubt.
some point, you have to centralize that focus to that specialized sport, but more than likely that comes in the puberty years, not 5, 6, 7, 8, 8-year-old tournaments
Yeah.
happening and things like that.
Let's stay on that for a second. Yeah, so like at that youth level, playing multiple sports, every sport teaches you something different. You know,
For sure.
football is going to teach you something different than basketball, than baseball, than tennis, than
Soccer.
jujitsu, than
Yeah.
soccer. I think it's important as parents that we let our children go play multiple sports so they can experience multiple things in life, right? Then from there, I think it's important that we kind of let them choose the route that they love to go down, right? And whatever really engages them, because whatever they find that they really fall in love with is where they're going to get most engagement. Therefore, they're going to want to go do that more, and then the reps are going to go up. Therefore, you can be the best in that area because you love the game so much, right? So
Totally.
like, but I think we got to give the sport and some of those decisions back to the kids in some ways, but I also think it like I've got a 5-year-old, Camden, right?
Mhm.
And so like we we put him in a golf youth camp,
Yeah.
right? He was 5 years old. This was like 6 months ago, and they took him to the driving range, and it was the first time he went. And what I'm realizing about Camden is the first time he does anything, he really doesn't like it. He doesn't like the unknown. This is kind of his
Yeah.
personality. So watching this, I know we need to do this 2 or 3 or 4 more times. He needs some more experiences
Right.
than just the first time, right? So the first time he went, he didn't like it. He wasn't engaged,
Right.
right? But we're playing golf in the backyard now, and so now he's more engaged. So I think we got to look at it from that standpoint, but we also got to ask them, "Hey, what do you want to do today? You want to play soccer? You want to hit in the backyard?" So like right now, Cam, he will go get his bat in the backyard and be like, "Dad, you want to hit?" And I'm like, "Yep." And
Yeah.
then he's probably got some ADHD like me, you know? And so he's like 5 minutes later, it's like, "Hey, you wanna play soccer?" Right? "Hey, you wanna jump on the trampoline?" Right? So we're bouncing around all of these different things, but what I'm getting at is multiple sports is gonna teach all of us different emotional skills, right? We're gonna have to compete differently. We're gonna have to be a teammate differently, and all of those things help us be the best version of ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. Every sport needs athletes, and that brings upon coordination, jumping. I mean, what what athletes need to be.
Yeah.
Uh, so what would you say you could point to that parents are doing wrong in youth sports?
Um, so a couple of things. I don't want to say that they're doing wrong. I think it's a better awareness of giving our kids opportunities in different sports, but understanding the environment at home and what they're watching, all right?
Mhm.
And then who they're hanging out with. Their friends group is going to navigate them through a lot of these sports. Example, this year, Camden did a local T-ball team, um, and it went fine. It went okay, but he didn't know any of the kids on the team.
Right.
He didn't have a ton of fun doing it. Right? It was a lot of volunteer coaches. The practices weren't necessarily set up. It wasn't actual baseball people running
Yeah.
practices. But I would say a lot of parents probably struggle with understanding the development and the competitive side of it
Mhm.
in all of youth sports, right? I think you can be competitive and you can develop at the same time, and you can also keep it fun. But you've got to understand how to kind of bounce around in all of those different areas at different times. It's more of a timing piece, but I think we need all environments that get competitive, that tell us where we're at, right? At a young age, I used to play with a lot of kids that were older than me, and I
Exactly.
would get my butt kicked
Yep.
all the time. So I knew I was like, man, I need to keep striving and get out of my comfort zone. They showed me what it looked like to be better at the sport,
Mhm.
but then we would also have fun practices that were, there was challenges and, either throwing challenges or sprinting challenges or catch play challenges, right? And that kept me engaged, right? And then there was different environments that just helped me develop, and that's a high rep scheme, right? Where there's not a lot of standing around. And I think, a lot of coaches are challenged with we have, one coach with 12 players
Yep.
and we're trying to keep them all engaged. And I think where the engagement goes up is if you can do a lot of partner practice, like one-on-one partner, either catch play, short hop progressions, soft toss, tee work, where there's a lot of engagement going on and not a lot of standing around going on. So if you can create those practice plans, I think that helps a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, if you could I if you could create an ideal sports environment
Mhm.
for the future, what would you see as an ideal sports environment?
Well, it's cost efficient. You have to create a high level of engagement in the practices. I think there's a lot of circuits that happen in the practice. You kind of see that within like basketball practices or football practices in general. I think we need to bring that to baseball a little bit more, where there's a high engagement level, high contact level
Yeah.
of, playing catch or hitting, and not as much standing around. You're bringing in a lot of these kids that might not have been baseball players or
Yeah.
their parents didn't care about baseball or weren't engaged in baseball, but they were engaged in dancing or music or skits or theater or acrobatics, gymnast. And we're bringing that all into banana ball. So there's a lot more kids that can say, I might not be great at the game of baseball, but I'm really good at the dancing piece or
Yeah.
I've got a musical instrument. And so I think that's where we're bringing a ton more kids in, and we're also keeping we're going to keep them longer throughout because they can bring something to the table and serve their team by bringing energy or doing something that's fun with music or a theater versus just only looking at stats. Like there's something else that they can bring to the table that's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Finding your forte.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So, you have you have seen the baseball world change with the Savannah Bananas. What could youth sports take a page out of Banana Ball or Savannah Bananas in general and take into youth sports?
Well, what we try to do with Banana Ball is create happiness and fun and create never forget moments for every fan that walks through those gates, right? And so we're highly focused on being really good on the field. And so there's a big work ethic and time and effort that it takes to plan what we're doing, to put the work in and become the best version of ourselves, right? So I think looking at that platform and showing like, hey, this is what it looks like to show up every day
Yeah,
and work your butt off for something not just about yourself, but for others. And so
totally.
with that, I think we're showing the world that you can't be scared to fail. We're doing so many things that have never been done before. We're playing in football stadiums. We're dancing on dugouts. Our pitchers are doing a full choreographed dance that takes 2 minutes on the mound, and then they're
Yeah.
throwing a strike. We've got guys doing backflip catches. Um, how do you get outside of your comfort zone to do things you've never done before and create some happiness and joy? You look at, everybody wants to talk about mental health and like sports psychology and performing at a high level. And, baseball's a tough sport. There's
It
a
is.
lot of failure in the game of baseball.
I handle rejection really, really well now because of my baseball past.
Yeah, I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat in college. So with that, you learn to, adjust and overcome some of those adversities. But what that actually teaches you is it's not just about stats. It's about relationships and connections. It's about serving the guys that are in your dugout, but serving fans too. And if you're looking at that, it's like, how do you serve everybody in your community? How do you serve everybody in your neighborhood? How do you serve everybody in your household?
Totally.
And bringing energy, being an energy giver, having fun every single day. There's body language that goes into that. There's a mental mindset that shows up. It's not about just your stats. It's if you go 0 for 4, what do you bring to the table? And one of our questions we actually ask our banana ball players is, what do you bring to the locker room outside of stats? Because a
Oh,
lot of people just want to focus on the stats, like how many hits did I get and how many strikeouts did I get on the mound. It's what do you bring to the group to influence the group? And in banana ball, we got a guy named Ty Jackson.
yeah.
We call him the energy giver. He's the spark plug. He always does 6-7, right? And so kids love that. But what he brings that is so unique is every day he walks into the locker room, his body language, he's bouncing around. He's got this huge smile on his face.
Yeah,
And then right away, he's like giving high fives, fist bumps, he's dancing, he's turning on the music. And it creates this complete different environment for everybody else in the room, right?
totally.
And so how do we all do that as individuals? And I call that an uplifter. Can you be an uplifter? So I think what we're teaching is you can do things that have never been done before.
Hmm.
Don't be scared to test. We failed at a bunch of things, but we've learned along the way. We're not scared to go through the mess. A lot of people fail once and then they quit. What we do is continue. All right, let's try it again. All right, let's tweak this. Let's change this. Let's try this a different way. We call that editing and plussing. So how do we edit it and how do we plus it? So trying it once is just the beginning. You really got to try it about 100 times to really start perfecting.
Absolutely. The only two things in this world that we actually have control over is our energy and our effort.
Yep.
And you articulated that in a very perfect manner. So when when kids are resistant to going back or starting a sport, how what are some encouraging things that as a parent you can do to not manipulate them but keep them trying these hard things?
Yeah, I think finding ways to lift them up. I think that's the biggest thing, and find things that you can give shout outs. So in human nature, I think what happens a lot, this is, if you're running a business, if you have employees underneath you, if you're a leader, a coach of a team, what happens a lot is people see something happen in an environment, they see the negative things, and then they just talk about the negative things, and
That's
they
the media as well,
yeah,
like
the
in a
media,
lot of
everybody,
yeah.
right? It's like, okay, here's all the bad things, and we focus on all these bad things, and it makes nobody feel good,
Mhm.
right? And so in Banana Land, what we try to do is give shout outs, positive shout outs every day in the group. So um, criticisms are still going to come up, but you have to offset the criticisms and the positive interactions. So we want 10 positive inputs to one criticism. And if we're building those people up and calling out all the good things that they did, it doesn't have to be about stats. Like, hey, you're a great teammate today. Hey, you ran really hard to the field. Hey, your shoe came untied and you were able to tie it today. Right? I do that with Camden. Like, good job tying your shoe, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it's like try to find a 10-to-1 ratio of giving these positive inputs that will build them up and build their confidence on the things that they did well versus, in T-ball, the ball gets hit to the outfield, all 10 kids go run and dogpile on
Yeah.
it. One kid comes out and, we're telling our kid, "Hey, you got to pay attention more. You got to be faster than everybody
Yeah.
else." I think there's a time for that. I don't want to sugarcoat anything,
Yeah.
but I think there is great teaching moments where we can uplift kids and build their confidence in all of these sports so they want to show up the next time. If we're just giving them all these negatives and we're blowing them up in front of a big group of people about what the things they didn't do good, they're like, "Man, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, right? This
Yeah.
this isn't fun."
Yeah.
That's
Throw
adults.
strikes.
Yeah, no joke, right? Like everybody's trying not to throw strikes, right? That's that's the greatest coaching cue
Yeah.
ever, right? Is throw strikes. Is like, yeah, I'm on the mound. No
Yeah.
crap, I'm trying to throw strikes,
Thanks,
right?
sir.
So, I think there's a lot of ways that we can uplift people, and we got to do it a different way. Just calling out the obvious negative thing
Yeah,
is probably one of the worst ways to coach. And unfortunately, there's a lot of coaches out there that just call out all the negatives, and some of them just don't know better. And I think there's a
totally.
growth piece, and that happens with volunteer coaches sometimes. But like the best thing is, how do we uplift a kid? I think the question you need to ask is, when I walk into this room, how do I uplift everybody in this room with my energy, with my facial expressions, with my connections? We have a saying in Banana Ball, H3: high fives, handshakes, and hugs. So every time you interact with somebody, it's a high five, a handshake, or a hug, and the power of connection is real.
Can I tell you how
Yeah.
I use that in my parenting tactics?
Yes.
When my 4-year-old son Beckett is hitting or kicking, like we have 3 H's:
Yeah.
high five, handshake, or hug.
Yeah.
That's all you can do with your hands. Do
Yes.
not hit, do not beat a kid. Like, keep your hands to
I love that.
yourself. So
I love
can
that.
be transitioned very
That is
easily.
great. That's a great parenting. I haven't transitioned that to Camden yet, but we're gonna use
Yeah,
that in the household
exactly.
now. That's good.
Exactly.
I love it.
I quote you quite often, and while we were on the topic of coaching, you have an awesome one. Why do we love our coaches? And
Because they
what is
love
it?
you first.
Because they love you
Yeah.
first. Our mentors, our coaches, and as mentors of the game, like we have to love that kid first and teach them that failing is just that first attempt in learning and building them up. You talked about serving. Tell me about your Bet on Yourself initiative and give me some details there.
Yeah. So, Bet on Yourself started a long time ago, and I was undersized. I wasn't the most talented kid. I love the game of baseball, but always felt like I kind of had a excuse me, sorry about that. So, like my Bet on Yourself initiative started with, at a young age, of like just believing in yourself when nobody else did. It's like you're not the fastest, the strongest, the best, but you love something. And for me, it was baseball, and it was like, okay, how do I do these things at a high level? And I learned right away, is like, hey, you got to outwork everybody, and that's one of those ways of betting on yourself. So, a lot of it started in high school. You go back to the quote that you just said. Who are the coaches or teachers that love you? You love the most, and why do you love them the most? It's because they loved you first. And Coach Collins, my
I
high
met
school
him.
baseball
Yeah.
coach, was one of those guys that, he'd run through a wall for me. He taught me how to be a man in a lot of ways, and like he showed that every single day. It wasn't just talk, or talking X's and O's about baseball. And we won 4 state championships in high school. He was really good at teaching the game of baseball, but he taught me more about the game of life than anything else. And it was because he showed up every single day, and there was this tough love that took place. There was a high standard of doing things. But when I went through this journey in high school, I was trying to figure out where I was going to go to college. And I'll never forget, Coach Collins met me in the parking lot at Lida High School. I pulled up, I parked in this parking spot, and he comes out of the building, and he said, "Hey, Gillum, where are you going to go to college next year?" I said, "Well, coach, I think I'm going to go to Seminole State." And he was like, "Really?" He was like, "Did they offer you a scholarship?" And I go, "No, but I think that's the best place for me to learn and get better. I think they win more than anybody else. And I want to be in an environment that works harder than everybody else. And I think if I go there, whether I play or not, I'm going to be the best version of myself after 2 years." And so he was like, "Well, there's other schools that offered you scholarships. You've probably got a better chance at playing at some of these other schools, because at that time Seminole was one of the best junior colleges in the country. At that time, history-wise, they won more games than any other junior college in the entire country.
Oh.
And so I was going into a place where every one of these guys were going to be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
We had that. This was back when they had draft and follows, and Major League Baseball drafted 12 of our guys, and they came to college. So we had 12 draft and follows on our team. I was not one of those guys,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I had to work harder than everybody else. And so when I was thinking about going there, though, Coach Collins tried to convince me not to. And the reason why I bring this up is I took Coach Collins's advice over many people
Oh, for
in my
sure.
circle because I trusted him the most. And he tried to convince me to go somewhere else so I could play more and have a better scholarship. And I bet on myself that, hey, I believe I know what's the best environment for me to learn and train and get better because I felt it. Because I actually went to Seminole and I did morning weights with them one morning. I did burnouts with them one morning, and like everybody literally pukes after these workouts, right? And so
Right.
that's what I wanted to be in though. Like nobody else was doing that. I wanted to be a part of that, right? So anyway, that was one of my first bet on yourself moments was like I'm going to decide to kind of go against the grain and do something that a lot of people is like, this doesn't make sense. Why do you do that? You know, along that journey, I went into the coaching world and, my first 2 years was coaching at East Central, coaching you I was making like $5,000 a year that year, pinching pennies, living at the baseball field every day, but that's what I wanted to do. And that's the environment I needed to be in. Again, majority of people would say, go get a job, make more money, all of these things.
Right.
And again, my life goal was to try to be the best master coach I could possibly be. I wanted to have an impact like Coach Collins had on me. And so I was like, okay, what do I need to do? What are these things I need to do? Well, I had a ton of responsibility at East Central. I was coaching third base, I was running the offense, I was a recruiting coordinator at 23,
Yeah.
I was the infield coach there. And so, like, at 23 years
My
old, like, it's
mentor,
crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
my next door
Uh,
neighbor mentor. Yeah.
we did live by each other in college. And so, yeah, and so like that gave me opportunities to learn. It wasn't about money, it was about learning, right? So from there, I got my master's at East Central. I was there for 2 years coaching, and they didn't have a full time paid assistant. And so it was like, okay, what's my next step? And again, I wanted to either coach at the D1 level or coach pro ball. And I was trying to figure out what the path was to get there. And so I came up with three things that I needed to do to get there: learn, grow, and network. Learn, grow, and network. Get an environment that I can learn the most. It's an environment that has a growth mindset. Grow, how you grow is you have to get responsibility and you have to literally fail through things.
Hmm.
You have to fail forward. You have to test things, learn, continue to grow. So I need an environment that's going to allow me to run the offense and maybe make the wrong calls sometimes. I need an environment that helps me put together practice plans for infield players and see if the development works over a long period of time. And then networking is I think everything in life is about networking. Majority of the jobs that any of us have is because we knew somebody that got us that job.
Yeah.
And so my saying on networking is a lot of people say it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's actually who knows you. So if nobody knows you, then they can't pick up the phone and call you and offer you a job. So you've got to get into the environment, go to conferences, go to clinics, go shake hands with people. And I thought the best place to do all three of those things was Phoenix, Arizona. And so what I did was I sent an email to every coach in Arizona and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Phoenix. I think this is the best place for me to learn, grow, and network as a coach. And I want to be a master coach. I want to be the best version of myself, and I need to get around people that are literally coaching every single day, so I can see what they're doing and kind of learn from those people." And so I'm coming to coach in Phoenix. If anybody's got a position open, I would love to interview for it. So I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. I actually drove down there. It was a
I
17-hour
remember.
hour drive. I was there for 2 days, interviewed. South Mountain Community College offered me a volunteer position.
Hmm.
And so I took that position. Again, I had a master's degree, $9 an hour is what I made on field maintenance.
Yeah.
So I volunteer coached, and then I did field maintenance in the morning to figure this thing out. But I thought Phoenix, Arizona was the best place for me to learn, grow, and network. And it truly was. If I wouldn't have made the jump, which I think a lot of people are scared to get out of their comfort zones, to go do something that can be the stepping stone to get them to their dream. And one of my stepping stones was pack all of my stuff up in a truck and bet on myself to move to Phoenix, Arizona for a volunteer position that paid me nothing. And to be able to make ends meet, I had to work on field maintenance from 4:30 to 1:30 in the afternoon for $9 an hour to barely make money so I could coach and learn, grow, and network along
And
the way.
eat and
Peanut
yeah,
butter and jelly
yeah,
sandwiches and
ramen,
ramen noodles and all of
love
those
it.
things, right? And so like if my stories, inspires anybody, and hopefully it does along the way, it's about betting on yourself to do hard things and to sacrifice along the way to be able to get something you want, long down the road. And I knew if I did this for a long enough period of time that, I could, create a situation that is one of the best baseball jobs in the country. And now we've created Banana Ball, and banana ball didn't even exist when I started coaching, right? So
Right.
we created something that didn't exist, but a lot of that started with just I literally just try to show up every day, and I still try to continue to be in environments where I learn, grow, and network.
I've always heard your network is your net worth as well, and that can come in a lot of different aspects. I don't know if you ever knew this about me, but my freshman year of high school, I was the fourth string catcher and equipment manager.
Good.
I was keeping book and every single game, and uh, I was frustrated my sophomore year trying to figure out a way onto the field. I knew my role as a freshman. I was gonna wipe every speck of dirt off of every cleat in order to be around the baseball team. And my sophomore year, we were a few games in, and I was like, Coach, my parents did not email or call the coach. They were like, Hey, you want to play? Go talk to him then.
Yeah, that's good.
And I learned conversing with older people or your mentors and figuring out the right questions to ask to get myself on the field. I was like, Hey, how do I play? And they said they needed a pitcher that weekend for a tournament. And I never hit again after that. Like,
Yeah. You
uh,
found a way.
made it through college. And looking back, I do think that my talent level didn't dictate how far I actually went in baseball, but you have those believers in you that continue, like,
But what a great life lesson your parents taught you is like,
right,
hey, I'm not going to go do this for you. You're going to
totally,
have to go do this yourself. And so I think that's a big piece. Some parents want it more than the kids do,
right.
and the kids don't learn to create confidence or actually go have those conversations. I think that's some of the best things. One of my favorite quotes is, um, "Don't prepare the path for your child. Prepare your child for the path."
I love it.
And I think your parents did that for you in that one moment. That was one scenario where
Right.
it's like, hey, if you want this, then go talk to the coach
Yeah.
and figure out what your path is to get onto the field. And man, that's a round of applause right there to your
I
parents.
love it. I love it. Of many things they did right, but there are a couple of things we won't talk about.
I think we all have parents that and, and we're probably in that same boat. We're
Oh
not
yeah.
perfect either.
Oh, I'm just prepping for the therapy sessions for my kids, you know. But well, this has been a lot of fun. Anything else that you want to say on the Bet on Yourself initiative as far as like the gloves and the shirts and all of that?
Yeah, I think in general, like all of us, life's about serving. If we're ever in this anxiety state or this depression state, it's about other people, man. When we
Yeah.
get out of ourselves internally and put ourselves into others and think about others and lifting others up, we all become in this better headspace, right? And so, I've always thought like it's always best to just continue to figure out how to give, 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 and this platform with the bananas has been awesome as we've built this thing. We started as a summer collegiate
Hmm.
team, and now we've morphed into the Banana Ball Championship League, where it's a real sport. And this next year, we're going to have 3.2 million fans come to Banana Ball games,
Oh,
70 different cities over the entire country. I think it's 45 states. And so, with that, you're going to see us like volunteering. You're going to see us going to make appearances at hospitals and different little league fields. But one of the things that I love is, I'm an infielder at trade, and coaching infielders is my favorite thing to do. And so the glove is so important as an infielder. And so the one thing that I wanted to give back is how do I give gloves to kids all over the country? and I've made custom gloves. They say bet on yourself on the side of them, and then it's got my life goal of having a positive impact on 1 million people. It has 1 million on the pinky of the glove. It's a green glove.
Yeah,
It's a army looking glove.
yeah.
There's that toughness of going to work, and we've been able to give out over 45 gloves over this last year as we've traveled around the country, and we're going to do that again as we travel around to more stadiums, more cities, and try to impact more kids. So there's going to be more bet on yourselves gloves coming
I
out. It's
love
going to be
it.
fun.
I love it. Well, let's go win the day.
Let's go, baby. Boom.